Boker Tov, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Professor Ben Israel, Mr. Una, ambassadors, friends, Boker Tov to everyone. Welcome to the 2018 Ambassador Summit that this year focuses on digital diplomacy, organized by the Blavatnik Interdisciplinary Research Center. This year, as in the past, we focus on specific topics that are relate to cyber and the cyber domain. And the decision to focus on cyber and digital diplomacy, I think, is more timely than ever. And as you'll see and you hear from the speakers, much of what is going on in our diplomatic world has to do with cyber. And I'll come to that in a minute. We know in our past that when we deal with conflicts, very complex conflicts, that it's very hard to understand who are the players, very difficult to resolve, but usually the language is simple. We can understand fairly easily that there are players and there is a conflict and there is something that needs to be resolved, and we can also understand that it's very hard to resolve, but we understand it. When we come to the digital domain, it is much more difficult and much more complex. And the effort that is done by many fora, like the National Cyber Week, the Tel Aviv University's annual conference, in that respect is extremely helpful because it touches on a very wide range of issues that relates to our world, to the diplomatic world, whether it's government-to-government relations, whether it's on the commercial side, the academic side, NGO level. All these kinds of cooperation are very important to us. But today we focus on the diplomacy aspect. I think that when we are talking about cyber, we also have to make a very clear distinction when we're talking about the technology and when we're talking about the content. Cyber is about protecting not just technology, it's about protecting values. And cybersecurity is securing democracy's main tenets and the ability of our societies to communicate freely and openly and securely. And this is, I think, the main point that we also hear today with all the speakers. When we're talking, whether we're talking today about the Russia-UK conflict where there are some threats to use cyber, or when we're talking about the US elections, or when we're talking about anything else that has to do with contemporary complex situations, we're talking about cyber as a technology. And that distinction also, as I mentioned, will be heard later on today. I'm very much looking forward to the discussions and also to your remarks. And also look very much forward to the speakers and the fora that will take place at the National Cyber Week later on June this year. So without further ado, let me please introduce to you Ms. Gili Drob-Heistein, who is the Director General of the Blavatnik Interdisciplinary Research Center, to be followed by Professor Ben Israel and then Mr. Una. So Gili, please.
Good morning, dear ambassadors and honored guests. Welcome to the 4th Ambassador Summit. On behalf of Blavatnik ICRC, I'm very excited to open this special event today and to welcome you all to Tel Aviv University. Thank you for coming. Before we begin, I'd like to say a few words about our event of the year, Cyber Week. As you probably know, Cyber Week is one of the leading international cybersecurity events in the world. Last year, we had 8,000 people that came from over 60 countries, joined us for the 5 days of conferences, networking events, workshops, seminars, and roundtables. Please take a glimpse at our Cyber Week clip right now, with your permission.
Cyber Week are among the world's most accomplished experts in this field.
Cyber Week 2017 having an absolute riot here.
We're moving into a world where cybersecurity becomes everything security, and the problem is going to get really hard. And conferences like this that bring together technologists and policymakers and companies and academics are really useful and important as we try to figure out how these decades are going to be secured.
So many international companies here this year. It's really exciting because last year I remember we had a good mix, but this year there are more international attendees than there are Israelis attending, and that makes it very exciting.
One of the most intellectually stimulating information security conferences I've been to in quite a while.
Once again, it's been fabulous here. This is, for me, one of the best conferences in cybersecurity.
Thank you. We really hope to see you here in June. And now I would like to introduce you with Professor Itzik Ben Israel, Major General, the head of Blavatnik ICSC.